Hello everyone and welcome to the STEM Fairies first ever YouTube video where I'll be going through IGCSE Biology Paper 4 questions by giving advice on how to approach and analyze the questions as well as the knowledge required in order to answer them. So in today's video, the questions that I'll be going through are questions from the movement in and out of cells and the transport in animals chapter. Let's get started. So for the first question, it says, some students investigated osmosis in raw potato sticks. Define the term osmosis. So the first thing that we should know is that the candidate should be able to define osmosis by stating the 3 key points required to achieve all the 3 marks. So we can clearly see here that this question is for 3 marks. So we're going to have to be stating 3 crucial points. So the first key point that should be here is the movement of water molecules. And we have to specifically state that it's water molecules since we're talking about osmosis. And if we were talking about diffusion, it wouldn't be a problem to mention any type of molecules. But since we're specifically referring to osmosis, we need to mention that it's the movement of water molecules. The second key point is from a region of high water potential to a region of low water potential. We can switch up the words here a bit and say down a water potential gradient, but we have to specifically say that it's from high to low, and we have to use the word potential. When we're talking about water, we can't mention the word concentration, but we have to specifically use the word water potential. The third key point and the last key point we have to mention to achieve the third and final mark would be across or through a partially permeable membrane. We can switch up the word partially by saying a selectively permeable membrane as long as it doesn't mess with the meaning. So the answer to this question should be along these lines. Osmosis is the movement of water molecules from a region of high water potential to a region of low water potential across a partially permeable membrane. In question B, it says the students measured the mass of 4 of the potato sticks using an electronic balance. Figure 4.1 shows an electronic balance. The students left each potato stick in one of the 4 different liquids for 5 hours. So we have the first liquid is distilled water, the second liquid is 0.1 mole per decimeter cube sodium chloride solution, the third liquid is 0.5 mole per decimeter cube sodium chloride solution, and the fourth and last liquid is 1 mole per decimeter cube sodium chloride solution. After 5 hours, they measured the mass again and calculated the change in mass. Question BI asks us to predict which of the liquids would cause the largest decrease in mass of a potato stick, and II says the students dried the potato sticks with paper towels before putting them on the electronic balance. Suggest why. We can see that each of these questions is only for 1 mark, so we may have to only state one specific point, but we have to be clear and state a clear sentence in order to achieve that full mark. So from the sentence, the largest decrease in mass of a potato stick, we can infer that we're looking for the solution in which the largest amount of water is moving out of the cell, which explains the decrease in mass. So if we were talking about the largest increase in mass of a potato stick, we'd be talking about the largest amount of water entering the cell through osmosis. But here we're talking about the largest decrease in mass of a potato stick, which means the largest amount of water is moving out of the cell. So since we already stated in the definition of osmosis that it's the movement of water from a region of high water potential to a region of low water potential, we can come to the conclusion that the water potential inside of the potato stick is high and the water is moving outside of the potato stick to a region of low water potential. After going through all of this analysis, we can come to the conclusion that low water potential, which in this case would be outside of the potato stick, would have a high concentration of sodium chloride. So the lowest water potential region would have the highest concentration of sodium chloride solution. So from here we can conclude that the largest decrease in mass of the potato stick would occur in the most concentrated sodium chloride solution. The answer to this question is 1 mole per decimeter cube sodium chloride solution. Keywords here are dried and before. And by using the term dried, so the students dried the potato sticks with paper towels, we can understand that we're removing any excess water from the potato stick surface, which already gives us the answer to our question. The term before here shows that we're drying them up before measuring their mass on the electronic balance shown on figure 4.1 so that we can accurately get a measurement of only the mass of the potatoes without the excess water. So the answer to this question would be to remove any excess water on the surface of the potato sticks and to measure the mass of the potato sticks only. The whole purpose of drying up the potato sticks with paper towels would be to get an accurate measurement of the mass of the potato sticks. Question C states that after the experiment, the students noticed that the potato stick with the lowest mass was soft and floppy. Explain why the potato stick had become soft and floppy. This question is for 3 marks. From the phrase the potato stick with the lowest mass, we can conclude that we're referring to the potato stick that lost the most water by osmosis, which is from a region of high water potential to a region of low water potential. And by mentioning that it became soft and floppy, we can infer that the potato cells have become flaccid or plasmolysed, or in other words, lost their turgidity. The answer to this question must be along these lines. As the water moves out of the potato cells by osmosis, from a region of high water potential to a region of low water potential, the potato cells become plasmolysed by losing their turgidity. This means that there isn't enough pressure inside of the cell to push on their cell walls. In question D, it says, the students followed the same experimental procedure with boiled potato sticks and found no overall change in mass in any of the solutions. Suggest why the mass of the boiled potato sticks remained the same. This question is for 2 marks, so we're going to have to be stating 2 key points. From the statement, the same experimental procedure with boiled potato sticks, we can conclude that the only factor here that changed is the state of the potato sticks, which in this case is boiled potato sticks. We also know that the cell surface membrane contains protein, which are denatured once they're exposed to high temperatures. So we can conclude from this point that the protein is now denatured, which means that the cell surface membrane is no longer serving its purpose as it is damaged or destroyed. So osmosis, which does require a partially permeable membrane, cannot occur as the membrane has been damaged. The answer to this question must be along these lines. Since the potato sticks were boiled, the proteins found in the cell surface membrane of the potato cells are denatured, which means that the cell surface membrane is now damaged and osmosis cannot occur. So now that we're done with the first question on movement in and out of cells, we'll be moving on to the second question, which is on transport in animals. And this question states, all mammals have a double circulatory system. Figure 1.1 shows part of the human double circulatory system, and it gives us here figure 1.1. Question A asks us to name the muscular wall that separates the left and right sides of the human heart. In order to answer question 1A, the candidate must have previous knowledge on the chapter Transport in Animals, and by doing so, being able to recognize that the left and right sides of the heart are separated by the septum. So the answer to this question is the septum. So in question BI, it says, describe what is meant by the term double circulation. In order to answer question 1B, the examiner wants the candidate to describe, which is the keyword, which means that the examiner wants the candidate to describe the steps which take place in double circulation. So to describe the term double circulation, we're first going to have to divide into its 2 terms. So the first key point would be describing the first term, which is double. So the first key point should be describing the word double, which here means that the blood is passing through the heart twice. And the second term, which is circulation, would be the second key point. So the second key point should be describing the route the blood takes to pass through the heart twice. Therefore, the answer to this question should be along the lines, the term double circulation refers to the blood passing through the heart twice, once to the lungs and back, and another time to the rest of the body and back. Question BII is asking us to state one advantage of a double circulation, and this question is only for 1 mark, but we're going to have to use a clear sentence to state this one advantage. To answer this question, the candidate must be able to simply state advantages of double circulation, which is based on previous knowledge of the topic. Therefore, the answer to this question could be any of the following. Higher blood pressure, prevents oxygenated and deoxygenated blood from mixing, or high metabolic rates. Question C says, Table 1.1 describes some of the structures of the human circulatory system shown in figure 1.1. Complete the table, 1 row has been done for you. So on the left side of the table, we're given the descriptions of the structures which we have to name, and we have to identify which letter on figure 1.1 they correspond to. So in order to answer this question, the candidate is required to identify the structures of the heart and label them accordingly with the help of a description of the structure here found on the left side of the table to help them link it to figure 1.1. The first description, heart chamber with the thickest muscular wall, is informing us that the structure is a heart chamber. This narrows down our options to right or left ventricle or right or left atrium. Since it says it has the thickest muscular wall, we can infer that it requires this thick wall to pump blood at high pressure to the body, which we should know is the function of the left ventricle. The left ventricle corresponds to letter C on figure 1.1. The second description, blood vessel that carries oxygenated blood to the heart, narrows down our answer to veins, arteries, or capillaries, since we're talking about blood vessels. But since it's carrying blood to the hearts, it must be a vein. And since the blood is oxygenated, it is the pulmonary vein. The pulmonary vein corresponds to the letter K on figure 1.1. The third description, blood vessel that carries oxygenated blood away from the heart, narrows down our answer to, again, veins, arteries, or capillaries. But since it's carrying blood away from the heart, it's an artery. And since the blood is oxygenated, it is an artery known as the aorta. The aorta corresponds to letter P on figure 1.1. The fourth description, blood vessel that carries blood away from the kidneys, also narrows down our answer to veins, arteries, or capillaries. But since it's carrying blood away from the kidneys towards the heart, it's a vein. But since we know that this blood is coming from the kidneys, it's called a renal vein. The renal vein corresponds to the letter M on figure 1.1. A way to remember and be able to differentiate between a vein and an artery is that a vein ends in IN, so in, so it's going into the heart, while artery starts with an A and it's away from the heart. Question D is asking us to describe how blood is transported from the vena cava to the lungs. You may use letters on figure 1.1 in your description. And this question is for 4 marks, so here we're going to have to be stating 4 key points. The key word here is to describe, which will require the candidate to state the main points of blood transportation from the vena cava all the way to the lungs with the help of the diagram. So the first point would have to be the blood entering the heart through the vena cava, that's a typo there, it's cava like here in the question, to the right atrium, which contracts. The second point is that the blood is passed on to the right ventricle from the right atrium, which then in turn also contracts. The third point is the blood passing through the semilunar valves. And the fourth and final point is the blood reaching the lungs. This is a clear description on the route that the blood takes all the way from the vena cava to the lungs. Therefore, the answer to this question should be along these lines. The blood enters the heart through the vena cava to the right atrium. It then contracts to pass the blood to the right ventricle, which in turn contracts and allows the blood to travel through the semilunar valves to the lungs. Question EI states, doctors recommend that a healthy diet can reduce the risk of coronary heart disease. Give one other lifestyle improvement patients can make that can reduce the risk of coronary heart disease. So only one improvement has to be stated here, and it's only for 1 mark. The candidate here should be able to recognize and state lifestyle improvements that can reduce the risk of CHD, which is coronary heart disease. Therefore, the answer to this question could be any of the following: an increase in exercise, no smoking, or reducing stress levels. The last question in this video, EII, states, sometimes surgery is required to treat coronary heart disease. Describe one named example of surgery that can treat coronary heart disease. This question is for 2 marks. So the keyword here is again describing, which means that the examiner wants the candidate to state the main points here, which are, the first point would be the name of the surgery that can treat the coronary heart disease, and then after that a description of the process named. The answer to this question could be any of the following: an angioplasty where a balloon is placed inside of an artery to widen it, a coronary bypass where the damaged vessels are replaced by a shunt vessel, or a stent where a small mesh tube is inserted into the artery to support it and keep it open. And with that, we're done with answering questions today on IGCSE Biology Paper 4 questions.